So welcome to the course. Here you're going to learn how to build an interactive wireframe with Adobe XD. And so for this demonstration, you should have a clear sense by the time we're done of the difference between a wireframe and a prototype and how it's used to communicate ideas to like a client, if you're your boss, or someone who is going to be using the resource that you provide. And so what I'll show you in this video is how to use the shape, grid, and alignment tools to build a layout and to test your user experience challenges using Adobe XD. Once we're in the document, I'll show you how to make and move artboards. So what we're going to do is you'll be able to hit Control or Command plus, depending on whether or not it's a Mac or PC, so that you can zoom in. We will go ahead and double click the title above the artboard, and so that'll allow you to change the name, and then I'll show you how we can add additional artboards so that we can go ahead and set up our document for the exercise. So what we're going to do is simulate a pop-up. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in a home page, and then we'll want to add artboards for both the pop-up. So I'm hitting Control or Command negative to zoom out, and then the space bar to be able to drag the page so that you can add more artboards here. And then what we'll do is we'll add one for both the pop-up and for the about page, so that the demonstration that we do, we want to simulate what it would look like to click a button and then have a pop-up. And so have a pop-up and then be able to go to the next page when you close it out. So on your left-hand side, as you can see, there is a selector for the artboard underneath the T. So you'll select that and then just place that where you want it. Then you'll double tap and change the title, which will be right above the artboard. So we put pop-up here, and then on the left side, and then on the right, we just typed in about page. Then you can use your space bar to either move the page around or hit Control negative to be able to view. We just grabbed this one here and moved it. I just wanted you to be able to see that you can move the artboard. And so now we're going to hit Control or Command plus to zoom back in so that we can start to work on our design. But first we're going to go in and we'll go to File and Save, and then that'll allow us to save the document in case we need to come back to it later. So once we click on Save, we'll be able to go into the appropriate, we'll be able to put in a title, and then I'm just going to save it on my computer, but you do have the option of saving it in the cloud. And then you, hold on, let me just get to the correct folder. So I set up a demo folder here on my desktop, and so that's where we'll keep all of our files. So now that we're in here, we'll just go and choose that. So when we save our document, that will be where we find it. So with that being said, what we're going to do is we're now ready to work. And so if you look at the left-hand panel, you've got an arrow. And so we're just going to grab this rectangle shape tool and just drag that out. And so don't worry about the size just yet, because over here on the right-hand side, what we have are a way for you to set the width. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in as 1600 by 200, and it's just arbitrary. I just wanted to get solid numbers so that you could see what that would look like. And then I'm just going to click on it and drag it to the center so that you can see how the shapes will snap to a grid. You can either use hotkeys or right click to copy and paste. It works very similar on a PC and a Mac, so Command C and Command V. But if you want to drag, you can actually see the guides will show you whether or not it's in alignment. And for the purpose of this exercise, I'm going to pull it slightly askew so that you can see some of the other tools. But I'll just grab that handle in the middle and drag it out so that you can see how the width can be stretched if you don't want to manually put those in. And then I just went ahead and hit Control C to copy the image above, or the rectangle above, and then Control V to paste it, but it ended up in the same spot, so I just went on ahead and dragged it down underneath the second rectangle. So you can see they're not really lined up, so what I'm going to do is hit Shift and then select all three, and then over here in the right hand corner are the align tools. So you have the option of, we're going to line up the right edge. It's very similar to some of the other Adobe programs, and so once we click on that, it should line all of those up. But if you notice the spacing between the top rectangle and the bottom rectangle, they're not evenly spaced. So everything's still highlighted, so we'll just click, this is the distribute vertically tool, in order to be able to go ahead and line those up and create an even amount of space between them. So then what we'll do is we'll actually just go ahead, since we want to keep everything together, I like to group them together, so you can either hit Command or Control G, and what I'll do is just test it by dragging the object and making sure that it's lined up with the center of the page. And if it then we'll go ahead and use the text tool. So you can either hit the letter T, or you off to the left hand in the sidebar, you'll see the letter T below the pen tool. And so you'll notice that the text may not be big enough, so you can actually drag that and make it a little larger if you need to. So I just typed in header here so that you know that that's like part of the website. And it's typical, you're going to find that in most websites. And then I'm going to go off to the right hand tools and find a font. So I tried Impact, but that's not very legible. So I'm going to use this scroll bar and try to find one that's a little more accessible. So we went with Arial here, and then just below you can change the font size. If you wanted to adjust the kerning or the spaces in between the text, you're able to do that. And let's see. Then you also have some options to, as you can see, so this is adjusting. We're gonna probably change this from like a 12, or maybe make it a little bit bigger, so you can see how that works. It increases more spacing. Centering works a little better if you have multiple lines of text, and we'll demonstrate that in just a moment. But for now, what we'll do is, let's see, so we're gonna we click the arrow tool, and then we click the header to make sure it's centered, and then I went on ahead and hit Control and then, or Shift and Alt, and so you should see like 2 arrows, and then I just dragged the header down, and then what that allowed me to do is to once I right click, you can see kind of what the options are. So I'm just going to click Send to the back, just so that you can see that that option exists. Because sometimes you may create stuff that doesn't show up, and so the issue may be that it's behind an object that you already have placed. So this will allow you to adjust that if you have multiple layers. And so there is a layers panel in the bottom left hand corner, but I just wanted to edit to undo that, just so that you could have an example. So I went over to the T again in the left side navigation, and changed the text. I just hit Control A and then typed in body, which can be a little bit easier. Sometimes it doesn't highlight in the ways that you want to, and so I've just found that to be an easy workaround. And so this one I just directly hit the T for the footer, and so you'll just see I typed in the word footer, and then hit escape, and that should bring me back to the arrow tool, so then I can just drag that over to the body to like line that up. And I just wanted to show you, if you wanted to change like whether or not the font is bold or italic, you can do that just under the font drop down. And then for the footer, you also have options like character options, like all caps, or if you wanted to adjust the transparency or the fill color, you're able to do that as well.